In this lesson, I'm going to talk about and also demonstrate what a VPN is all about. VPN is simply a virtual private network. A VPN simply is a connection between two or more computers or devices that are not on the same private network. So here you have a situation where you have your own organization with, let's say, 500 computers, and you wish to connect to yet another organization located maybe in another city or across the globe. In order to ensure that only the proper users or authenticated users and data sessions cross that virtual private network device, data encapsulation and encryption are used. Now, two different terms, encapsulation and encryption. Encapsulate means simply put everything together in one frame, packet, or header. And then encryption is, in fact, using certain algorithms to encrypt data so that during the travel, during the transfer, it cannot be read by anyone. And to do that, think of this as a tunnel. So simply a tunnel is created between the two networks, either through the local area network or the wide area network being used. So two networks, create a tunnel between them two, and then encapsulate, as well as encrypt your data. And that's called a private network, or a virtual private network in essence. And the medium being used between these two networks is the internet itself. And we are aware that the internet is public, So in order to cross the public domain, we need to have a tunnel between the two networks so that data cannot be read or intercepted by a third party. Some of the popular VPN protocols is the point-to-point tunneling protocol, also known as the PPTP. It basically encapsulates the frames, the data frames, point-to-point into the IP datagrams for transmission over an IP-based network. Data, by the way, isn't encrypted by default. The Layer 2 tunneling protocol with Internet Protocol Security, L2TP for example, is a combination of the point-to-point tunneling protocol and Layer 2 forwarding, also known as the L2F, which is a technology developed by Cisco Systems. So a couple of different ways you can connect two networks together. The IPsec, for example, is used to encrypt the actual message or the data. Point-to-point tunneling protocol, a couple of other things that you need to be aware of. It allows multi-protocol traffic to be encrypted and then encapsulated at the same time in a given IP header. And that essentially is sent across the network or public IP network. PPTP can also be used for remote access and site-to-site VPN connection, so it has a big advantage to it. It also encapsulates frames and IP datagrams and makes them ready for transmission. PPTP uses our basic TCP connection for tunnel management, and a modified version is also available, also known as the generic routing encapsulation, or the GRE, to encapsulate PPP frames. And this is what the actual header looks like. So you have the IP header, you have the generic routing encapsulation header, the PPP header, and then the actual frame which is being encrypted. So the idea is that you create a tunnel, you flow the data through that tunnel, and all of that data, whether it's documents, videos, for example, or images and whatnot, any data being transferred is in fact encrypted. So in this lesson we talked about what a VPN is all about, some of the important protocols, and then the point-to-point tunneling protocol. Next, let me in fact show you how simple it is to create a virtual private network connection using your own computer. So here I have the control panel open, you can go ahead and open the control panel on your own computer. So once you're in the control panel, locate Network and Sharing Center. Okay, so in my instance, it's called Network and Sharing Center. Once I click on it, it takes me to the actual page where I can view the basic network information and set up connections. So for instance, if I need to set up a new connection or a network even, I can go ahead and click on Set up a new connection. This brings up a dialog box and gives me several options. I can either connect to the internet, I can set up a new network, I can manually connect to a wireless network, or I can connect to a workplace, which essentially, notice here it says set up a dial-up or a virtual private network connection to your workplace. Now this could be someone else's workplace as well, as long as it's creating a tunnel, right? A secure connection from one computer to the other or from one server to the other. So just simply select this, for example, and if you just walk through the steps, it'll create the connection for you. So let's go ahead and click next so you can actually see the next screen. Here it gives me two options. Either I can choose an existing connection or I can create a new connection. So I'm going to leave this option by default. Click next. Two options once again: use my internet connection or dial directly. So if I were to dial directly to a phone number without going through the internet, so if the other network that I wish to connect to has a phone number or modem, right, connected to it, and I can dial into it, they will give me a phone number and I'll just enter the phone number and it will connect to that device. The other option, of course, the first one, is the use my internet connection. So connect using a virtual private network connection through the internet, and that's exactly what we talked about. So the medium is the internet, and there are two networks or two computers or two servers or two nodes they're trying to connect. So I'm going to go ahead and, let's say, show you how to use my internet connection. And here you can simply type the address. Now the address means the IP address or the domain name as well. It doesn't matter if you were to use the domain name, it'll be resolved to an IP address. If you were to use the IP address, and if you know the IP address of the computer that you wish to connect to, simply enter it here, give it a name, and then once you're done, you'll click create and it will create the connection for you. Obviously you have to have the credentials from the remote computer. So I can say something like 157.54.0.1, and once I'm done, I can go ahead and click create, and it's going to create the connection for me. So once the VPN connection is created, notice it shows you the active connections. So if that was the case, I'd be able to connect to the remote computer. So I hope this helps. Practice, and let's move to the next lesson.